Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Timothy Bowles. He is president of PACE, and that is an acronym for People's Action for Clean Energy. It's his first time on the show, so welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll get right into it. Tell people what PACE is.
PACE is an all-volunteer organization, as you said, People's Action for Clean Energy, that was started in 1973 by some Wesleyan students and professors in the Middletown area who were kind of reacting to a proposal for a nuclear energy plant at that time. And so back then, and as we do today, was really promoting alternatives to nuclear energy and really supporting renewable energy and conservation.
Where do we stand today as far as alternative energy sources? When you look at the regulars, the standards that we all use, alternative energy I know there are tax incentives and things like that,
Right.
but technology-wise and adaptation-wise, where are we?
I think in Connecticut, the solar production has tripled in the last couple of years.
They improved the technology.
They improved the technology, and also very significantly, with the competition that has arisen worldwide, the prices per kilowatt of solar in particular has dramatically decreased over the last number of years.
And that's really what it's all about, isn't it? Cost effectiveness, right?
I think it's cost effectiveness, and I think it's also the environmental attributes of renewable solar, in particular, energy, as versus fossil fuels. I think that's the bottom line.
Now, I know you're a big advocate for alternative energy, for clean energy. How battle hardened is the other side, the establishment, those fossil fuel people? Because obviously they're entrenched. That's what the American public is used to. It's what they're comfortable with. It's probably, for them, it's cost effective. Maybe they don't know, what the alternatives are out there. But is that a big battle?
It's a huge battle.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. We just saw it very recently up in the Hartford State Legislature with, once again, a defeat of a shared solar program, which would have really dramatically changed the way solar could have been used by actually having a solar system that could be shared among multiple households, those that didn't have good solar orientation. We see it all the time in terms of policy issues around fracking, around...
that's a buzzword lately.
It's a huge one. It was when I was in the legislature, it was a huge issue. It continues to be so. So and what's interesting to me as of today, what I read, the G7, all 7 nations in the G7 just have vowed to go ahead and take steps to eliminate fossil fuel consumption by the end of this century.
And there are powerful people on the other side that lobby against that, right?
Incredibly. And you see it all the time. The whole idea of a centralized power grid, relying particular on nuclear and fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. They're incredibly, they have a lot of money. They're very formidable in terms of really fighting back against essentially what's been a grassroots effort around advocacy for renewable energy. So they are powerful interests, and I've seen it firsthand up in Hartford again when they've been able to defeat bills that would have really promoted a much more visionary approach to renewable energy, particularly in this state and in other states. You see that in Texas, you see it in Florida. They're really fighting back hard.
But the states that have a vested interest in whether it be oil or coal or whatever, those are the states where the legislature there, being represented by the people, will fight against the alternative energy because it's in their personal interest to keep it going, right?
I think a lot of it's about money.
Yeah,
it
that's
really
really
gets
what it comes down to.
It's money, but the fact of the matter is, I believe we're winning this battle. I think, and worldwide, Germany is now gone from 6% utilization of renewable energy in 2000 to 30% in 2014.
That's a nice jump.
It's a huge jump, and it really demonstrates, and Germany has a similar climate issues as we do here in Connecticut, but it took a dedication, it took an enlightened government to go ahead and really promote this, so it can be done.
Flip side, China, real bad with the fossil fuels, right?
They, particularly around coal, yeah,
Coal,
it's a huge issue for them. But I think to their credit, they are beginning to understand this, and I think they're making attempts. They certainly, one of the largest, if not the largest, producer of solar panels in the world.
Selling them and using them are two different things, though, right?
That's correct. But you see efforts that they've made. They have one particular city that they've designed that uses nothing but renewables. It's a very, again, visionary approach to things. Now again, the coal reliance on coal for China is significant. So they're not going to give up easily in these kind of areas.
I get impressed by certain little project. I shouldn't say little project, but like for example, out in San Francisco, the new football stadium there, Levi's Stadium. It's the most I guess environmentally sound state where so many renewable things, solar, plants growing, and everything that you can possibly do to have a football stadium, but at the same time be very ecologically friendly. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Yeah, I know a little bit about. My family is actually in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm aware of that. But you also see it here in Connecticut. You have companies like Kohl's Supermarket and other companies here that have. Our Kohl's stores are putting on solar installations, major ones. So I think you really are seeing a lot of corporations really taking the challenge up and going green.
Are they doing it because it's becoming a little bit more cost effective, or I know that are people out there that actually care about the planet and want to save it, but at the end of the day, these companies all have to answer to their board and is it really money, or do they care about the planet?
I think it's both.
Really?
I think there's definite benefits to relying on renewable energy. But I also think it takes some corporate leadership that really takes responsibility for, their footprint, on this planet in terms of their marketplace. And I think, frankly, customers are appreciating those kind of efforts.
Right. All right, so explain, like in a little bit more detail, the mission of PACE. What exactly is it? What is its goal?
Well, PACE really has a number of goals. The first and foremost is promoting renewable energy.
And not necessarily a particular kind, but is there anything that you kind of lean toward more?
I think solar has been something that we've really promoted for years and years. Judy Friedman, who is really the leader of the organization, has gathered us together, and we've hosted a number of house tours going back at least 25 years that I'm aware of, that I've been involved in the organization. We just had one recently up in Killingly, and I think that caught your producer's eye. And these are all of these places have integrated solar panels, as well as, and I have to stress this very much, there are three prongs to approaching, I think, a sound and sane energy policy. The first one is conservation. That is, you don't use as much electricity as you use as little as you possibly can. The energy that you use it efficiently, and then if you use energy efficiently, then you go ahead and really introduce the idea of renewables. So it's really a three-pronged approach to all of this.
Isn't that the efficiency aspect one of the big breakthroughs in solar panel technology? There wasn't, like in the old days, there wasn't really the efficiency that you really wanted out of solar panels, right?
It's increased tremendously. I mean, this is where our technology, when we have a challenge like this, there are people out there that really can really address it. And I think the big thing too is, again, with the competition on an international level, it has really dramatically increased the efficiency of solar panels, and then again reduce the costs.
Are people aware of things, and do they still exist tax incentives for using alternative energy, and is that still a big thing?
Still a big thing. There is a very definite danger that the 30% federal tax credit on renewable systems might go away next year. You see, as a result of that, the solar industry here in Connecticut in particular is really promoting installations. A lot of companies, I won't name them right now, but a number of companies, I think they're making outreach, really trying to be very aggressive in terms of their marketing approach. I also have to give a lot of credit to, here in Connecticut, the Connecticut Green Bank. I used to chair its previous name was the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund. It's now called the Connecticut Green Bank. It's a quasi-state agency, but they've done an excellent job through Solarize Connecticut programs and really nudging consumer interest and consumption of solar and other renewable products.
A lot of old houses in Connecticut. Can you effectively retrofit an older house solar-wise and actually get something out of it?
Absolutely, no question about it. A lot of it obviously depends on your orientation and on shade. Those are the two big things around it. But that's why something like shared solar, where you would have, for instance, a neighborhood or a small subdivision taking advantage of a central solar installation, and then everybody that has good orientation, everything else, and people in that neighborhood tie into it rather than have everybody have a rooftop installation. So there are ways of addressing something like that that are pretty powerful.
Now, on the opposite end, people that build or new houses being built, are they automatically built with the environment a little more so in mind nowadays than they would have in the past?
Well, I think one of the things that you're again, I'm referring to the Killingly show tour that we had. It was a Connecticut Zero Energy Challenge winner. There's a gentleman of Nicholas Lato that was a builder designer of that.
Tell me about the house.
Well, the house, again, it's a net zero energy home. It's not a huge house. I think we're kind of promoting the idea of rather than have a McMansion that has integrated renewables and energy efficiency, it makes much more sense to have something on a smaller scale. It has incredible insulation all around, the triple glazed windows, 8.5 solar installation, the HRV, the introduction of fresh air exchange in this home is tremendous. I think the big thing is that there are more builders that are familiar with this kind of building and construction techniques. And I think people, again, there's a demand for it. I think people really want, in the long term, a house like this is going to save these owners a lot of money over the years.
Is the resale value of the house higher if you have if it's more environmentally friendly when it comes time to sell
Absolutely, no question about that.
Yeah. And there's obviously, again, tax breaks if you build that way as opposed to the more traditional forms of energy.
There are definitely incentives out there. Again, you want to encourage. The first step is a well-designed, energy-efficient house that conserves as much energy as possible.
How does the technology work when you had just a miserable winter like we had, just ridiculous amounts of snow, cold? Are there any issues in those kinds of situations?
Not really, no. Cold doesn't really affect it at all. Actually, in some cases, February is a very good month. Now, I don't know about this past winter, but
it was an ice age.
It was an ice age. It was a brutal winter. But no, the systems that I'm familiar with and people that I know, they continue to have good production throughout. It's really a matter of the solar gain that they have.
Let's take a break and come back. Why don't you give a website out for PACE, and then we'll get back to it. And
sure, I'd love to. And again, I give a lot of credit to Judy Friedman, who has been running this organization for a number of years. But the website is www.pace/cleanenergy.org.
We'll put a graphic up on the screen so people will see it too.
That.
Timothy Bowles is president of PACE, that's People's Action for Clean Energy. We'll take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Timothy Bowles. He is president of PACE, and that stands for People's Action for Clean Energy. And it's all about clean energy, alternative energy, which is where we hope to be going. We are going. I think more and more people are conscious of the world we live in and that we can't continue to just kind of suck the resources out of the planet like we're doing now, right?
Exactly, yep.
I want to touch on a few other things too. Like for example, since we've spent so much time on solar, I really want to get into a little bit more on some of the major breakthroughs. There's one in particular that you want to talk about, right?
Well, I think this is very prominent. Something that I've been waiting for a number of years now is a battery breakthrough. The whole idea of distributed energy, that is, and solar installations are a tremendous example of that, where you're not relying on a centralized power production, but you're really decentralizing and producing power at your house. The biggest problem with that is people have been tied still to the grid. And have not had good, reliable backup power. The old battery technology just simply wasn't adequate to really, very expensive to replace, very expensive to maintain. Tesla has just come out with a new battery that was just announced within the last 2 to 3 weeks that I think really demonstrates a major breakthrough in this. And I'm very impressed with the leadership of the company in that they're actually trying to bring the cost down of it. I think that right now the cost would be about $3,500. I believe they're going into production within the next couple of months for these units. But that kind of thing would allow you to go ahead and put on a solar system on your house, a PV system, photovoltaic, and then have this battery, or there are other manufacturers that are starting to get excited about this too. And as was mentioned, these patents are open, so they're available to other manufacturers to go ahead and take advantage and perhaps even make improvements of that. But I think that provides a tremendous breakthrough, particularly in a state like Connecticut, where we've had, over the last 2 or 3 years, some significant power problems, power outages as a result of storms. And this would alleviate the need for even a compressor or something like that, a generator, and people could utilize these batteries using solar as the generating the power and then storing them in these batteries.
How big a power event? How large is it? Not physically, but how much energy can be stored in these things is what they're going for.
To be honest with you, I think they have different sizes.
Okay.
They have different arrays. They have some that, in fact, when he made his announcement, Elon Musk was talking about
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
He
great. Actually was in a building in a large auditorium, and the whole thing was powered by these batteries.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Well,
what a visionary he is.
He's tremendous, and he's really doing this out of a real interest in promoting environmental health and consumer convenience and efficiency.
Now, granted, it takes a billionaire to be able to be as philanthropic as he is.
Well, there's some billionaires, as we well know, that are not quite as philanthropic about that, pointing to some of the folks that still want to promote fossil or really stagnate us with fossil fuels.
Yeah, Tesla himself, if you want to go back that far, had amazing. I mean, he was on the level of Einstein with his ideas that he had.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't work out, but maybe some of them we weren't ready for it. Maybe he was so far ahead of his time.
And that's the kind of leadership again, visionary leadership that we really need, and we have it in this country. There's no reason that we can't, and I think he just provides that company itself provides a good example of that, of something that they really want to benefit the planet, really benefit the people of this planet.
And Elon Musk also runs SpaceX, which is a company that I'm very impressed with too.
Yes, yeah. No,
that is the first big private company outside of NASA to do all the space work that they're doing.
Yeah, no, again, incredible that the private sector can engage in these kind of in these kind of initiatives.
Just touching briefly outside of solar, things, we were discussing off the air, things like geothermal. I know it could be down the road. Right now it's very expensive, but again, there are other alternative energy sources that the technology could develop and advance at some point.
I think that's very true. I was very interested. There was a proposal for a subdivision here right up the road in Montville a couple of years old, actually about a year ago. It would have been a large-scale subdivision, and it would have integrated, or we were talking about integrating geothermal as part of the initial construction phase of this, together with photovoltaics. The other attributes to it too is that it would be affordable housing for homeless women and children, and also for veterans too as well. So the whole idea of this is not just a one kind of layer. It's
Right.
really being holistic, really being a good steward of the planet and its resources, and really being holistic in our approach to a lot of these problems that we have.
I know you were mentioning you had mentioned Conn College in New London did a sort of kind of tried out wind power, and it seemed it's very promising, and for other places it could work out well. It's just, and surprisingly in Connecticut, being a bordering on the Atlantic Ocean, Long Island Sound, even with tests that they did, it probably isn't for us because we just don't have the wind generated here, right?
You know, this was done probably a couple of years ago. At that time, it just was not economically viable for them to go ahead and pursue that. But once again, we have an area with wind energy where the technology, where the new technology in terms of the blades, in terms of the systems producing energy at lower wind speeds is very promising. And I think we're seeing that. And the fact of the matter is right now, though, wind is in the central part of the United States, even in New York, that's where there's a lot of wind that can be taken advantage of. But I hope to see the day when we will have small-scale, viable wind here in Connecticut along the shoreline, and certainly up in Litchfield Hills, where there's actually, some
Yeah, you could utilize it better.
You can use it, yeah.
I want to go back to the batteries for a minute, because one thing I heard one time from somebody that said don't, and now I may be comparing apples and oranges because maybe the technology, the car battery technologies for the electric cars and the hybrids might be different than what we're talking about with our breakthrough technology with the batteries here. But they said don't confuse it being an alternative energy source with being green, because I think the ability to recycle those things or to have them decompose, taking X amount, 1,000, I don't know if that's that long too, but don't confuse green with it being an alternative and maybe even a superior energy source, but not necessarily green. Are you aware of that? Are you concerned about that?
We're really talking about, instead of production here, we're talking about storage. And I guess one of the analogies that I would use in this example is for a long time, environmentalists such as myself were really promoting the use of compact fluorescent lights. It turned out that with the mercury contained in them, it was just not really the healthiest thing that we could do. So I think there's a maturity process involved in this, and now with LED lights, you really can have a relatively safe light source that's much more preferable than compact fluorescence.
The fact that all the auto manufacturers are willing to build electric cars, hybrid cars, does that show you that they really don't care what way we go? They're not automatically tied to the oil companies. It doesn't have to be that way. They'll build for whatever is profitable for them, whether it's electric, hybrid, or regular conventional combustion engines, right?
I think a lot of this is driven in a free market. A lot of this is driven by consumer demand. Right. And as I think you have a more enlightened public that are really interested, they take a look. I mean, people like myself at my age, I take a look at it's my children and my grandchildren really that I'm concerned about. So I think I'm interested in leaving a personal legacy of really trying to promote a good stewardship through all of these things, renewable energy and conservation, energy efficiency, and really not to benefit myself and my wife at this point in time, but really to benefit the future. That's really what this is all about.
You've given out the website for PACE. If people are like-minded like you and they want to save the planet, or they're just more interested in alternative energy as opposed to the conventional ones we have now, or for the sake just want to learn more, or maybe be involved with PACE in some way too, are you available for people to be involved with you? And how can they do that?
Highly encourage people to, again, go on that website that I gave earlier.
What's on the website for people to see?
A lot of it has to do with updates in terms of what's going on. For instance, there was Judy Freeman just put out recently and it posted on the website the whole issue with the shared solar, what happened with that legislation. Unfortunately, it got boiled down to a pilot project. It lists really the mission and goals and objectives of PACE. As well as highlighting things in events such as the Solar House Tour that we did. We do them periodically. We used to have larger ones with maybe up to 6, 8 different homes. Now we're kind of concentrating on single places that serve as models. People can come and touch and see and feel and take a look at what's happening with this technology, that it's real, it's happening. So people can get a lot of information about that. Also, in terms of legislative action, we have a lot of partners with a lot of the conservation groups.
I hope you don't give up
groups.
on that, even though, there might have been a little bit of a setback this last time as far as.
Not
again,
at all. No, the
good.
fight. No, a lot of these things. And as a legislator, previous legislator, I've found out sometimes it takes a session or two before these things really grab hold and get the traction they need to pass.
Well, I hope everything continues to grow for you and people get more, active in their own lives as far as alternative energy goes and learn more about PACE. And it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Thanks.
Sean, I really appreciate the invitation.
So that is our show for today. I want to thank Tim Bowles, president of PACE, People's Action for Clean Energy. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.